We have a couple of tools at our disposal for creating. I mean, there's a lot. There's some really easy tools to use for creating avatars from scratch. There is some more interesting ways that we won't get into, but you can definitely do scanning of your own body, and you can create some things from a lot of different software packages, especially the VR creation tools, which we'll get into a little bit later in a few seconds. But the ones I found the easiest to use are Adobe Fuse, and there's also an open source project from Carnegie Mellon that's called Makehuman. So we're just going to start right now with jumping in and creating some sort of design by committee. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced design by committee. It's usually a bad idea. That's why we're doing it. I like failing publicly. So this is no. Yeah, no. I mean, like we'll make it fine. The output's going to be ugly. So this is a very piecemeal Dr. Frankenstein kind of way of making an avatar, a biped humanoid avatar. We get to choose the heads, the torsos, the legs, and then clothes, and we can change the materials later on. And then each one of the features has different sliders and knobs and buttons and whistles and bells, so that we can kind of dial in different dimensions. And this class is really not about anything beyond just giving you the tools to create. We're not really having that much dialogue about what you're creating. It's more aesthetic and more entertaining. But you can see there's definitely a lot of play with gender and body types and all that kind of stuff that's definitely apparent in here. So we have right here on the right side, we have heads, torsos, legs, and arms, and they don't have to match. If I double click on female scan one, and then on the left we have the face. So this is the head, and it is then auto went over to the torsos, and we can find a different torso for it. These are all in their semi-nude state. We can give it a male scan for the female head, and now we have a farmer's tan that you wouldn't believe. And I don't know, maybe they have a little gangrene. So now they have, yeah, the legs aren't looking good at all. Oh yeah, it's not doing well. Yeah, they gotta get that fixed. Yeah, I mean it's totally Frankenstein. And then we have arms, and I think there's like a tune arm we can use. Yeah, so yeah, skipped arm day, and we can see I'm just pushing and pulling things around. Yeah, it's not pretty. There we go, beef them up a little bit. So this is kind of a fun tool. Let's get like they work out leg day all the time. Like their zombie leg days are buff. Yeah, so it's just drag and drop, tug and pull. Let's do it. Yeah. More. But up. All right, great. So that was pretty easy. Let's see what we have to customize. So here, those things I was just dragging, those are all related to these sliders right here. I was just pushing and pulling, but you have the sliders to do the same thing. Into teeth and torso, when you get to a head, there's a thing called a mouth bag, and these are rigged faces, and the mouth bag is where your tongue is, and so when you put the mouth, it has to see some kind of material in there. So you can get into teeth and tongues and all that kind of stuff. And these are, I do believe, rigged for facial animation later on. We can give them some wonderful clothing. You can open up the software and import new clothing, new patterns, new materials, or you can do that later on in the game engine. For right now, we'll protect them a little bit with this beautiful, I think this is pleather. There you go. Nothing but a jacket and a smile. Yeah, it works, right? That's the top. Maybe they're sporting bikini briefs. Oh, kilt. Do we have kilt? Well, I'd have to make my own custom kilt. Rolled shorts. There we go. There we go. And shoes are super important, and so are hats. So shoes. I think this look would definitely be cowboy boots. Ooh, firefighter boots. I don't know. This is actually, I think I've seen this in New York a bunch. I was trying to be weird. I'm like, no, actually, I know that person. They like work at the coffee shop. Yeah, I just said coffee shop, right? Yeah. Yeah. Does it have ironic hats? Come on. Beanie's pretty ironic.
Captain hat.
Captain hat?
Right up there.
Fisherman, captain, beanie. Let's look at them all. Let's look at them all. Scrubs cap. That's pretty weird. No, we don't want no scrubs. Okay. All right, so we'll do captain hat. That looks pretty classy. And then a mustache. Yeah, we need it. Full on alpha handlebar. Yeah, this is actually
They're setting the bar.
I think I saw that the runway show.
Yeah, Fashion Week was not too long ago. There we go. We got a soul patch, a little flavor saver. All right, so and then we can switch out some textures here and do some more stuff. We're basically saying we're not going to get into materials today too much, but in general, textures are considered to be better for storing into memory if they're square in powers of 2. So it's 512, 1024, 2048 by 2048. That's pixels, pixel count. This is a good enough size that each different article of clothing will have this texture. So overall, it'll be much larger than 4K with all the different, like the hat is a 1K texture and the mustache is a 1K texture and all that kind of stuff. So this is fine as is. Obviously, you're welcome to do whatever you want to do with all this kind of stuff. And then what we're going to do is we're going to send it to Mixamo. Mixamo was kind of a saving grace for this class. I found out about it like the day before I taught it the first year. It's a database of characters that are already made. Everything's all ready for mocap and animations. And it also has a database of has a library of motions as well. We're not using the motions in this class because we have a motion capture studio. That would be ridiculous. So we're only making custom motions in here, but we could definitely use a wonderful feature on Mixamo, which is you can upload into a rig, put a skeletal rig inside your character for you. If we go back to our Fuse, we can say send to Mixamo. I'm going to name it, what's this person's name? Captain Bucktooth Billy. All right, so it's going to export this as like a temporary file and upload it to the Creative Cloud. And let's see. So this is, this is a no-brainer, easy way of just creating something, having some fun, and having some instant rewards. And all these files are compatible. There's one switch you have to make when you put Unreal. We'll get to that in a second. And my Mixamo just changed. It used to be a database of all the things you just uploaded, but it's no longer the case because I had 3 years worth of student projects up in here. It was really, really funny to see all the crazy projects. Mixamo and Fuse are free with the Creative Cloud. If you have, you should have the nyu.edu address. It's super cheap for the whole Creative Cloud. I think I pay like $16 a month. And that gives you everything like After Effects and Audition and Premiere and all that kind of stuff. So what's happening is that this is auto rigging. It has like this algorithm that knows the human biped, and it will put in all the joints and bones that we'll be using as standardized for the rest of the class. And just to kind of keep it uniform, we'll always be using the Mixamo skeletal naming conventions. It says it might take 2 minutes. So in the meantime, we're going to take a look at Makehuman. Makehuman, it's open source, and it has nightly builds. It has a lot more experimental features. You can do things like adding wings and adding all sorts of other custom stuff. It's a little bit harder to use because it has more features, and but it is, and it also has its own weird way. Like you see this Fuse stuff is kind of cartoony, and Fuse and Makehuman gets into the uncanny valley pretty quickly. Okay, there's Captain Bucktooth.
Whoa.
Yeah, right?
Why is his mustache like turning white?
Oh, that's just what it does. So we can have the facial blend shapes if we want to. We're not doing the facial stuff right now, so I'm going to keep it disabled. And then we see we can have what kind of level of detail. That's what LOD stands for the hand. And we're doing fingers, bones in every finger. Over the weekend we did flipper hands, so that would be 25 bones, which is also what the Connect does. More rudimentary, so you could choose which ones. I'm going to go for the full standard skeleton. Update. What was that? So if you wanted to design clothes, the standard is a software called Marvelous Designer. And this is what people are using the Unreal Engine for making clothes. I have a good friend. Maybe we can have him come in. His name is James Orlando that does all this stuff. He does it much better than me. James Orlando. Sorry, I can't hear you. What? I think I got a free sample. I mean, really leverage your EDU emails while you're here.
And afterwards. It works like forever. Yeah. That's why your session costs that extra 40 grand.
Let's see how our Mixamo's doing. All right, so now it's updated hands. We say finish, and now this is an asset that we can either download as an FBX, or we can animate it and bring its animations to Unreal. I already have an animation. I have Najma dancing, so I am not going to use animations from Mixamo. You're more welcome to go through them. We want it in a T-pose, and we want it as an FBX. All right, then I also have Makehuman. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. All right, so here's the interface for Makehuman. And as I said, you can get weird into Uncanny Valley. If you guys don't know what Uncanny Valley is, where it looks almost lifelike, but not quite, especially dead in the eyes, and it's even more alarming than if you just done stylized. So we kind of start off with this homunculus-looking guy, and then it has sliders for things like this is a wonderful, discussion tool. We have a slider for gender. All right, and we have a slider for age. I didn't hit it right. So we have a slider for muscles. So we got muscle baby. And there we go. Fat muscle baby. Tall fat muscle baby. And then yes, the sliders for things like African, Asian, and Caucasian. So this is obviously an interesting discussion tool. We have breast firmness and all these kind of other wonderful things. We get into faces. Where's head fat? Yes, there we go. Head fat. We can scale there. Oh, wow. There we go. All right. How can we salvage this poor baby? Long fingers? Yeah, long fingers. Only one of the hands is long fingers? That's a mistake. Okay. Left hand. Long fingers. There we go. Oh, there's a random button. We can also just hit random. But I like this guy, so is that bothersome to some people? I think so. All right. I'm fine with it. We're gonna just randomize. All right. There we go. And then we have different materials for the skin and how we want to render it. He's a ghost. Let's give him a fedora. A female sports suit. I think this is done. So since we're all super happy with this, So now there's some different kind of skeletons we can add in there. It has rig presets. So it's in this mode right here, so we can see transparent. We could do one for the game engines. We could do one for the Carnegie Mellon database for motion capture, which is also an interesting discussion on gender because it's 1,000 different animations of one dude, like a computer science guy doing basketball, doing running, and so it was made in 2001. So it's the only free database of motion capture kind of out there for 10 years. So all free motion capture was a like 22-year-old white male motion capture for 10 years, which is an interesting thing if a database is biased. But anyway, I'm just going to export this without a skeleton, and we're going to use the auto rig tool from Mixamo so we can take that for a spin. So let's save it or export it as a, we'll do FBX at first. We'll see if that works. Either FBX, which as I told you is Autodesk's 3D asset tool that can save things like camera moves, animation tracks, and everything. Binary, feet on the ground. I don't know what a decimeter is. I have to do inch. I'm just joking. And then there should be probably a save button somewhere. Oh, right there. Yeah, I gotcha. Layout. I'll just throw it here on this thing. And what's this guy's name? It's Babyface.
Bo.
Babyface. Bo. Is it like B-O or B-E-A-U?
No,
Bo. Bo. All right. Babyface Bo. I'll put it in my downloads. All right. What a menagerie. All right. So we downloaded the Captain Bucktooth Billy. And let's go back over to the characters. And let's upload a character that doesn't have a rig. Yes.
Oh, I have a question. If you have a character that you made in Unity, can you put that in Mixamo?
There is a, in the marketplace, there's an OBJ exporter for Unity. You have to export it using that. Otherwise, it's just a .meta file or something like that. And it needs to be converted to a 3D standard format. Yeah, a wavefront OBJ or a FBX file. Okay, yeah, I mean, I know there's definitely something in the marketplace. I haven't used it in like a year or two. So it might be a standard thing. Unreal also exports assets as FBX.
Yeah, so if you export it as OBJ, you can also.
Yeah, so if you have OBJs have a companion MTL file, which is the material file. You actually zip them up together and upload the zip file, and that way you'll retain the material. Otherwise, if you don't care about the material being inside of Mixamo, you can just rig it as an untextured 3D object. So I was looking for Babyface Bow. And let's upload a character and see if we can auto rig it. I mean, this saves so much time. Okay, so we say we have to orient it, and it is facing forward. So I didn't see, like you see, it didn't bring in the texture. If I zipped it up or something, I would have brought in the texture too. But I like it as all white, you know, just it's after Labor Day. Somebody should tell them. So it's orienting. It's already oriented to the front, so that's fine. And now we just tell it where the chin is. Right there. Where the wrists are. And if you're making it yourself and it's not symmetrical, you can turn off the Use Symmetry button. You have elbows, knees, groin. And we're going to do this full hands next. It is, they're microwaving a skeleton into them. Cool. Look at that. There he is. Ready to go. Who called me Babyface Bo? Who did it? Which one of you? Which one of you? All right.
I feel like he's so terrifying. The lights were bad.
So we're going to download it, and I mean, just so we're not glossing over it, I'll show you quickly how to find animations. It's really easy to do. Find animations, and there's a whole list of things you can do. I prefer to do catwalks. There's a lot of catwalks. You just select on it. It'll load it in. And you have a slider for sassiness.
Do you?
Less sassy.
Oh my god, you're sad.
More sassy. So we could trim it, arm space, like if it's a much wider character, or because we got junk in the trunk, we can say go a little bit wider so it doesn't go through the hips. And then, or if I want to go the other direction, I can say mirror, and then I can download this animation. All right, so catwalk walk. Okay, so that's the Mixamo. So I decided to make my own 3D model, and a couple of you guys took the VR class, and we did one in Tilt Brush. I tried using Google Blocks. As I tell you, I always make really horrible things. So here's Google Blocks Character. That's just a VR app. It was free. I did an Oculus a second ago. And what's interesting about this model is that Mixamo does not recognize it as a biped. It refuses to auto-rig it. It recognizes the file type, but it just says, no, I don't know what you're doing here. It's a little asymmetrical. It's a lot asymmetrical. So I downloaded this file already. I can do it again. OBJ file. It's in this weird zip folder with its MTL file, which I guess that kind of finishes. I didn't really paint it, but this. Open this up, you'll see that it has that material file that comes along with it. So I could, if this was able to be recognized as a 3D model, I could just take the zip file and upload it directly into Mixamo. And that would be the quickest thing to do. I can create my own thing in VR and then upload it directly in Mixamo as a zip file. But it didn't recognize it. There's no point in wasting time showing you that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I'm gonna go into Maya and/or Cinema 4D and just show how to quickly rig something. Raise your hand. Who does Maya? We got 2, 3, 4. Who does Cinema 4D? 1. Okay, we'll do Maya. I had Cinema 4D in my tutorials from last semester, so more than welcome to watch those, or we could do it together one-on-one. So let's go into Maya. And I don't know. I know how to do like 3 things in Maya, and I'm going to teach all 3 of those things to you in class, and I'm fine with it. I'm okay with not knowing everything. This is a big, dense program. Don't be overwhelmed with it. I spent 10 years trying not to do Maya, and I'm like, it actually does everything better. It really is the best for game engine pipeline, no matter if you're using Unity or Unreal. Even when I make things in other engines, I actually pass them through Maya before, and then export it one more step before I go into the game engine. So we should have Mr. Blockhead. And there, OBJ. Hello. I mean, totally. It's just, I already did it, so. Alright, downloads. This is just backup in case I need to come back to it. I have too much software open to be doing screen recordings too. We already know this person. Alright, let's try to import it again. It's definitely interesting doing this on a HD screen. Great. So that's pretty destroyed. I'm actually, this is one I've already gone through. I'm gonna delete this and grab it from the website again. Let's see right here. It was this thing right here, and I'll put it in my downloads. Another place. All right, so bring in the model. I see. One more time. I'll put it into a folder. There we go. Weird. Stop. Okay. So what this has, it's super tiny, first of all. A lot of these things that are done in Tilt Brush and all these 3D tools are always like 100 units too small. And then every single block I made them out of is an individual mesh. For this purposes, since everything is kind of the same color, to make it easier on myself, I am going to go ahead and fuse these guys. I'm just going to combine it. So now it's just one mesh. There it is. And we'll go over to the scale. And as I said before, it needs to be 100 times bigger. You could totally do the flat thing too. I actually did a PNG of Donald Trump last class. I just rigged like a flat object. So yeah, it's kind of fun. All right, so we have this character, and we want to make the character sit on the ground. I have no idea what this blue line across my screen is. All right, select it, and let's go to rigging, skeleton, or let's see, skeleton. Let's bring up the Human IK tools, and we're going to create a skeleton. Actually, we're going to raise this guy up first. The arrow keys, rotation keys, and scale keys are over here. Just going to bring him so he's standing on the ground. Good enough for me. Create a skeleton. Boom. And it has a skeleton there. I can change it so it's wireframe, so now you can see that the skeleton's kind of the same height. That kind of intuited what the height was, but of course my dimensions are kind of really, really wrong. This would be weird, but also maybe kind of funny. So now it's just a matter of, and this might seem too tedious, but it's not that hard, just to take the pointer key and just find certain areas, and you'll get more comfortable working with joint data, and just select these things and just move them where they kind of need to be. It's a good idea to go into a front view. Thank you, Ife, for telling me that. Oops. Or a side view. We'll go into both. That wasn't it. Oh, I lost it now. Side is X. I hate this. I'm not a Maya person. Alright. Space. Well, I ruined one of my views. Spacebar. And how do I turn that back to a...
You gotta be on the Maya. Right? Now you can choose whatever you want.
Fantastic. We'll do front. Hey, Maya. All right. It's actually this wonderful Alienware keyboard layout. All right. So as I was saying before we got interrupted rudely by Maya, was that we can kind of just position these things where they need to be, and from a couple of different angles makes it easier. Yeah. So I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to happen. Like this needs to be lower. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring kind of the waist, the whole thing down, and just match up the waist. Then let's make this a little bit taller. You can use the arrow keys, like the up and down arrow keys, and we'll go through the different bones, or we can select it from this hierarchy on the side. So I have hips. I'm going to go up to the spine right here. I'm just going to move it up. Or not move it up, I'm going to scale it up, excuse me. There we go. That's fine with me there. Move would disconnect them. Then we have these bones, which are obviously way too long. And let's see if we can scale this up. There we go. And then the same way, I probably could have done both at the same time. There we go. So not too much work. These are a little bit asymmetrical. Let's go into the side view, like a pro. Anyway, move this forward. There we go. Just kind of line it up with the center of the thing. And I'm so completely happy with this. All right, spacebar. Let's go back to perspective. All right, so we have this guy. He's hanging out. It's going to be rough. Let's go ahead then and take the skin, and we're going to bind the skin. It's doing something here at the bottom left. Maybe I have to select both, all the stuff, and then we bind skin. There it goes. Now it's doing the thing. And then if I move things forward and whatever, that's fine. He wasn't really using it. Yeah, I know it's not pretty. Yeah, so let's go to the legs. So now, I didn't bind that one. Let's see if we bound this one. There we go. So it's now kind of bound and it's been auto-weighted. You can really go and refine this, of course, and make it much better, but this is kind of a proof of concept. You can take something that's asymmetrical that doesn't register as a humanoid, and you can still do the whole retargeting process, and you can have fun. We've had a project in here last year where they were a dancing tumor, and it was completely asymmetrical, done in ZBrush, and we had to go through this process of learning this. So this is a proof of concept. This is a weird object, and we've done it with tilt brush. We've done it with all sorts of weird painting tools, and that's ready to go. We can bring this into Mixamo and add canned animations, or we can retarget in Motion Builder. This one's obviously a little rough. It lost a leg through the process, so we're just going to do it with maybe like our baby face bow, since that's everyone's favorite. And I'm just going to do a new scene and just kind of jettison this guy. So Kat gave us some data. She gave us a BVH and an FBX, and those were called take. Right here, here's the BVH file. And the BVH file, let's test this to make sure. I think, yeah, it's just a human readable text file. Like a CSV, but it's using tabs as space delineators instead of commas. So it's totally, there's BVH readers for all sorts of creative coding platforms. And then an FBX. I'll show you how to import both. So we're going to open up Motion Builder. Motion Builder is Windows only, but again, it's free with your EDU email address. So Windows only, but it's extremely powerful, and we could pretty much spend an entire semester just on Motion Builder because it is the software of choice for doing retargeting and doing motion capture stuff. But we're going to spend more time in Unreal because that's a little bit more fun. You could do live Motion Builder previewing. OptiTrack makes a plugin so that all the data is happening in real time in Motion Builder, so you can watch the character and you can put that up on screen so your performer can watch not only the data and motive, but also look at the character that they're going to be retargeting to. So if they have wings or a long nose, they can actually be aware of that feature. So again, a piece of software that does a great deal of amount of stuff. And we're going to do just a couple of quick buttons and we'll be out of here. I am going to, first of all, open up my main avatar, which was this babyface bow. This one, though, the one that we rigged from Mixamo. I probably should name it something different, but this is the one. It's going to have a skeleton. This is an empty take from Mixamo. I can uncheck it if I want to. Doesn't really matter. And then we'll just say open. So this is babyface bow. And if we drag it, that animation is not on there. And it has these handles for all the different bones. You can, I think we spend like hours trying to figure out how to make those smaller. It is possible. What was that? Okay. So now let's bring in the data. Well, actually, let's do one thing first. So the whole hierarchy, the whole where everything is in my scene is right here on the left. And in my scene, I have these babyface mesh and some eyeballs, and that's the sports suit. So all these are different little meshes. But all we care about really is the hips. It's the hips we're going to put the animations are on. The meshes have already been weighted to the hips. Over on this right side, we have here again a lot of templates of different things. All we want to tell Motion Builder is, Motion Builder, this is a character. That is all. Take my character, And this is called characterizing the hips. It says, okay, this is a character, but what is it? It's a biped. All right, so now inside of my characters, it's listed here, but it's called character. I'm going to rename it real quick for my own sake, and I'm going to call this like avatar. This doesn't really save into the file, so it can be whatever I want to, just like a little working name. All right, and so what we want to do, we want to bring in the data to match them together. I also see that there's some problems with the skeleton in that it's not in a T-pose. I really want to make sure that I'm modeling in a T-pose. And I think I had an option in Makehuman to put them in a T-pose before I exported. I do know that a trick that I have is I come back here to the timeline. I put in a keyframe for -1. And then I can zero out all rotations. Woo! Let's see what happened there. Oh, I zeroed out scale too. That's funny. We can just zero out rotations, but what I noticed is that it thinks that those are 0 because that's how it's exported. So I know that we love babyface, but we'll have to come back and do it later. We're going to go for the other person, which is equally as appealing. Just figuring out as we go along. Great. This one's in a T-pose, and this will work much nicer. All right. So just to review what we did, we have all the different meshes here, but we want to characterize those hips. Yes, I know that sounds like a J-Lo song. Shakira, she characterizes those hips. All right. So this will be called Shakira. Okay, so we could do two different things. We can bring in our FBX by merging in the FBX, or we can import a motion file and bring in the BVH. Same exact thing. Either one is fine. I'm going to go ahead and merge in the FBX, which was called take. All right, we want to keep this one selected because this is our animation track. And then we see there's Najma, and there's the dance. Right? Now, in a few seconds, we're going to have Bucktooth doing the same thing. I know that I told you guys it's great to have a great T-pose, but I think that this overriding and zeroing out rotations is a good idea also. It kind of like cheats it. Let's see. 0 out rotation. Let's select the hierarchy. Zero out rotations. There we go. We faked the T-pose. Let's keyframe that. Let's add a keyframe by right-clicking on it, maybe. There we go. So now we cheated. It's going to go away, so we'll do that. All right. One more time. Zero rotation. And I thought it was key at time, but I guess it's not. Let's do it at 0. There we go. So now we have a key at 0, and it starts off in a T-pose. Cool. So let's get these things connected. All right. We have the Shakira, but we haven't done anything with Najma's hips. We're going to characterize her hips as well. So now both Najma and Shakira are characterized together in Motion Builder. How many times have we said that before? All right, so we want to affect Shakira. Double clicking on it. We want to take the character of Shakira. We want to import source. We want the data to be coming from what was called character. This is Najma. We could have renamed it. So let's go back to characters, Shakira, and we want the character to be driven by what's called character. We can rename this if we want to make it easier for us to understand. That's Najma, Najma's data. We go back to Shakira. It's going to be getting character data from Najma because we characterized it. This is characterized data from Najma. We make this active, and then front and center we see that we have The world is your oyster. All right, so the motion builder, as I said, can do a whole lot more stuff. You have what's called like stretch offsets and other kind of different tools for retargeting. These are important when they have to reach and grip things. They have to actually reach and be very precise. So as you see, this is a different scale character than Najma. So now you might have to have them bend over more. You might have to, they might do a handstand. The hands don't have to touch the floor. So there's a lot of tweaking you can do when it comes to motion builder to make this a great animation. Right now we're going to be doing artwork, and I want to jump over to Unreal to show you what it looks like to import these skeletal meshes. But you can spend a lot of time diving deep into doing not only changing the retargeting, but also doing animated. Right here, you see there's different animation layers. You could do blending layers, and we'll show you that maybe in the second half of the semester. I still think it's important to like show you how if the character does have the hand pass through the nose, you can add a slight keyframe additive layer that'll make it pass over it without deconstructing or destroying any of the keyframes that are already on the character itself. So right now, I think there's a little bit of some boring stuff here at the front. Actually, it's all interesting. What we need to do is we need to plot this data. Right now, it's just actively being driven. We need to plot it. Right now, we're going to plot it to the skeleton because we're going straight to the game engine. If we were going to be doing more additive layers and let's say Maya, this would put it to a FK, a forward kinematic, or inverse kinematic rig, where we could do more teasing and pushing and pulling on the animation itself. This is, whereas Kat showed us earlier data cleaning, this would be considered animation cleaning. I'm just going to do it with a skeleton for now. Default is fine. And then if I want to, I can take one last step and send it to Maya. It's not really needed, but to show you that they have a bridge together to each other, I said send it to Maya, and just going to open up Maya and it'll be there. All right, go to Maya. Zoom out, and lo and behold, there it is. And let's do animation. So we have a timeline. There's a timeline, and we can see that yes, everything's happening. Great, and Cat exported to frame 475. That's why it goes to 475. If I wanted to, I could trim here. Like if I want to get rid of the T-pose, I could start maybe at right there. So let's export 185 to 475. I'm going to export all to FBX. And then oftentimes when you start importing objects into Unreal, say it'll give you a warning that there's no smoothing groups. Warnings are fine; it's not an error. But it's looking for you to have this checkbox clicked. It's just Unreal being a snob, saying, "Oh, I guess you're not using Maya, are you?" I mean, that's what I think. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong. So this is Bucktooth for Unreal. Your naming conventions will vary, and it's just telling me that this was a large animation curve. I might actually probably need to bake that. 1 second. Let's export again, and let's look at these animation settings. And yes, we want to bake the animation, and we could bake the whole thing, but where do we trim it? Oh, we trim it here. So it's putting keyframes on every frame. So now we're just doing 185 to 475. Sorry about that. That's where we trim the track. And then by baking it, we're going to put a keyframe at every frame. And we can leave it there because we're trimming it over there, but it also would take extra time. So we'll do like that. There we go. And now this is going to be called, well, overwrite. Yes. Cool. And at long last, let's open up Unreal. I have a week 3 project kind of started already. We're still using 4.16, but the plugins we'll be using, I think I've already updated for the semester to 4.17. We're not going to jump into Oculus. Well, while that is loading, I'll show you quickly in Cinema 4D the same thing. Sure. We have the downloads. I could take that OBJ again, which was just called model OBJ. Bring it in. I can merge all the meshes or whatever, and then it's underneath character. And you just say character. We say how tall it is, auto size it. We're going to be doing a biped. And here we're going to do a regular mocap skeleton. And then you might recognize a little word called Mixamo. So it matches kind of already with the Mixamo. And then we have a, we start building it by components. It's not bone by bone. So we can do, if I hold down, take control, I can add 2 arms. Let's go into wireframe. So arms, hands, back to pelvis, add feet. Where is it? Oh, I didn't really get the auto scaling. But this one's a little bit easier, I find, because it's just these little components. When I go over to adjusting, I actually take these little nodes, and these are a little bit easier, I think, to grab. And so I like to do more rigging in Cinema 4D. But this is where it is. And then when you're done, you just go back to your character, and you say binding, and then it will do the same thing as the smooth bind in Maya. It'll bind the skeleton to the mesh. And then, lo and behold, we have Unreal. Let's go back to the top. I like to have the side window open for navigation. And I always create an assets folder when I start. And then in my assets, I have maps and stuff like that. I'm going to make a folder for skeletal meshes. Skeletal meshes versus static meshes without bones or animations. And first, I'm going to import this in 2 steps. I want to bring in just the mesh, the skeletal mesh itself, and then I will come back and import the animation. And I'm going to make one mistake the first time just so you guys can see me make the mistake and how I fix it. And what was it called again? For Unreal? There we go. All right, so this is the import window for Unreal. It has a lot. In fact, on this 920 by 1080 screen, you can't even see everything. But it has a lot of different features that you can get into, especially when you're doing morph targets and blend shapes and dealing with binormals and normals and tangents and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to leave this as a default, and I can just barely hit the import all button. That's a UI nightmare. All right, so we're going to, oh, and I'm not going to bring in the animation. I'm just bringing in the skeletal mesh by itself. Let's see if we get the error that I was looking for. All right, so it says these bones are missing from the bind pose. It even tells you how to fix this. It says, please use frame 0 as a reference point instead of using frame 1, which already has animation in there. So I'm going to show you where that is. Wow, look at all that stuff. We're going to delete it. And then I will import again the bucket for Unreal. And this time, I'm going to look for that use frame 0 as a reference pose. I'm going to click that there. That was hidden underneath this little advanced twirl down. And then if I import all, we're not going to get those errors. It's using, see, what was it, the error? The, what did it say? No. It's using a reference pose from frame 0, right? Doo-doo-doo. Yeah, using frame 0 as a reference pose. I don't know if it means what that literally says. We can definitely look into it. I just know that fixes it. So we have all these different materials and textures which we really haven't gone into. You might have seen these things as we've gone. as you built your levels. But the main thing is, so we have a new map. I'm going to save everything, save all. Just so you know, that save all button is the secret button. This one is just save current. I know that's a much bigger one on the UI, but that will just save what you have selected. And a lot of people like made mistakes where they close out the project and realize that this is the magical save all, or save all in here, Control-Shift-S. So this one that's highlighted pink, if I'm not sure which one's the skeletal mesh, I can filter it out by skeletal meshes, and there he is. This interface is called Persona. You might hear it referenced as Persona. And we have all the materials that are being used. I can highlight, like this is the face. Let's highlight the face or the skin. We can highlight the mustache, the hat. See it's turning yellow. Or we can isolate it so that's just the hat. So we can see where these things are coming from. But what's super cool is that he's inverted. Right? So not to get into, did you see the mouth bag? There you go. We're in the mouth bag. Okay, so so this is, not to get too technical, this is something to deal with how Unreal renders. You now in 4.16 have an option to do a forward rendering. This does like a thing called deferred rendering. It deals with transparency in a unique way, and this can also be kind of confusing for people who are just jumping over to Unreal and they're like, why are my standard characters inverted? Which is, you should demand more than having inverted characters. I'm going to open up the material, and we'll see our first kind of editor window. This is a material editor. As you see, it is a node-based scripting language. We're not going to get into this too much today. Next week we'll be diving into this stuff more. I just want to show you a quick thing. These are all the different textures that make up our character. I just want to show you that right now it's set to, if I click on this material node, it says translucent. It's actually not translucent. These things are opaque. It's using alpha as a mask. Just change that to masked. And then whatever is in the opacity, switch it over to the opacity mask. Here I am holding down Control and clicking and moving these things around. I should keep an opacity mask. I'm recording this so you have this for reference. If this happens, just Slack me and I'll go over it with you again. It is kind of weird. But if we go back to our bucktooth for Unreal, wow, that's a great mustache. Very nice eyelashes. So that's probably where like having a transparency might be nice actually, so it has more of a gradient when it comes off. Other things that don't have transparency, like the clothes, I guess aren't inverted, or they are inverted. We just we'll notice it later. All right. So, but we don't have an animation, but we have a skeleton. We can review. Skeleton has some bones for the eyes, so we can move the eyes around if we wanted to. Looking at you. Looking. Oh, it doesn't be bound. Anyway. All my fun goes away. All right. Save. So let's go back to our import window. And just import here. And go back to Buckhead for Unreal. So as I said, FBX can hold things like camera data and lighting data and all this stuff. It also has animation tracks, which is most important for us in this class. So I'm selecting the Unreal project file, or the FBX for the Unreal import. Hit OK. And no, I don't want to override it. No, let's do this again. Don't select. Let's put it in a different window. Let's put it into. Let's make a new folder and do one for animations. Because we have a whole bunch, it'd be nice to keep these a little bit cleaner. Import. All right, and now we don't want to import the mesh. If we did this for every single animation we'd have 1,000 different meshes in there, and that's a waste of space, a waste of too much clutter. So let's not bring in the mesh. Let's import this onto the skeleton that we already have that I just showed you guys. So that's the trick. We're importing animations. You can bulk import animations. You can bring in 100 at once, by selecting it when you do your import window. But we've said don't bring in the mesh, just give me the animation data. Go ahead.
So that's literally the same file. You're just selecting as a
Yeah.
skeleton.
Yeah, I could have brought them both in together, but I felt it would be better to separate out to show you all the different steps that are involved. I always bring in the T-pose character first. You can bring that in before you bring in any of your motion capture data, as soon as you have your asset, and then you can bring in all the animations one at a time or all as a bulk. You can do some trimming here. I already did the trimming in Maya, so I'm just going to say the exported time is fine for me. And then let's just say import. And now I have... There we go. And let's find our maps. Let's go back to the new map. Save everything. And what's cool is there's a couple ways of putting this into your scene. We can bring in the skeletal mesh first. And then we can choose to use an animation asset and then have it from that list. You see it changed position already. And then we can say it's looping, it's playing, all that kind of stuff. We can scrub through and say where do you want to start if it's looping. I want to start looping from middle of the way through. So we have all that. Or we can just go to the animation file and bring it out. Select. There you go. I don't know why they're always 90 degrees that way. I brought in a animation starter kit. This right here, which has a bunch of animations already loaded. This was something I got from the marketplace for free, I think. And I already have a bunch of these, and we can just add it to the level. And it's just kind of fun to see all these different things happen around you. So the idea for the homework, that's nice. Rotate around, maybe they could be shooting at each other. There we go. Maybe we'll put a daffodil in their hands or something. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Patty cake? Patty cake? And let's hit play. So one thing to note here is you can see this is obviously implying a movement, and it's not moving at all. There's kind of two ways of doing motion capture. There's one called root motion, where everything is locked to 0, 0, 0, and then you apply some sort of parameter that would be a locational transform or some sort of speed variable. That's a preferred method for doing anything that's with AI or it's going to be a video game character. But if we're doing more like a play, if we're doing like a scene for VR or whatever, we actually just map out this room to be the size of the VR experience, kind of, and then we just play it in absolute positioning so that we use the motion and the translation of people actually walking in space. So if Najma had actually moved over, she would actually be moving left and right, and that would be an absolute positioning versus a root motioning, where these guys have to be animated via keyframes to go over, and that's a little bit can be a little difficult to get going, but once you have it working, that's how you do more procedurally animated characters, things that would be artificial intelligent or be a hero character for you. But
something you set in mode?
No, this is something you would actually do in Motion Builder or Maya. You can also take the root motion in Unreal. It gives you the option inside the skeletal animation tools, but I find it to be not as graceful as those other tools. It's Unreal kind of skirts a line of not giving you too many features because it knows that there's a pipeline in place, and some tools are better for doing certain things versus like you can do a lot more with skeletal meshes when it comes to fine tuning. Unreal's like, no, you have a guy in Maya or you have a guy in Motion Builder and they're doing it, and push it back to them to finesse that before you bring it in. But just for you to know, if I go into this animation track, let's see, I go back to, we can say enable root motion, and now it wouldn't move around. Now it's like pinned like a butterfly into a butterfly case. Or we could say do it from the first frame. It really isn't that. It really isn't that graceful. It's much better to be done inside of the other softwares. Yes.
Is Mocap available on Mac or
No, it's not available for Mac. It's available for maybe Linux.
Yeah.
But it's installed on most of the PCs at ITP, including the big Alienware.
So for that stuff, yeah, use one.
Yeah, I mean, if you're here cleaning up data, Motion Builder's on both of these PCs right here, and just do it right then. Yeah.
And is it student license or?
Yeah, all Autodesk software has a 3-year student license, and every year they release a new version. So every year I get a new 3-year license to this year's software. So my 2015 is about to expire, but I'm at 2018, so it doesn't matter. And you can install up to 2,500 computers at a time. I know, but then you have some other software which have been jerks to you. I don't regulate it myself. Anyone else have any questions about all this stuff? Yeah. So now you guys have the tools of the trade. You know how to calibrate the room, do the animations, clean it up if it's not perfect, and then put it onto the characters you want. So you guys already know how to take simple stories. Obviously we can blend these together. We can create a sequence of animations that kind of go together. But for this week, either use the world you've already built. If you have new ideas for new animations, the suits will be clean. You'll have time to sign up for. Actually, I need to make that sign up sheet real quick. And before we leave today, I'll make the sign up sheet for this weekend's labs. You can either just do a cleaning of your track, or you can come in and do all new animations or new mocap if you have a new world you want to do, and just flesh it out. You're trying to build, work with a group to do certain aspects, but have your own Unreal project, so you're really getting those skills by yourself. And then you can take 3 hero shots of 3 different animations that you've gotten and import it into the world. But definitely, you already did some mood boards for your characters, so see if you can use these tools to follow through on your conceptual ideas. All right, so I'll upload the screen recording. I think Kat will have to redo hers because her audio wasn't piping in, unfortunately. Because the giant cement wall and the fact that we weren't using the webcam for audio to go through TeamViewer, and then which would have been an amazing feedback loop. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions.